If you've ever felt like the market was personally out to get you, like the second you click buy, someone flips a switch and your trade goes sideways, this video is for you. We're breaking down the real game behind the charts, psychological warfare, manipulation, bait setups, and why most traders lose even when they do everything right. These are the mental shifts from Mark Douglas's Trading in the Zone, but with a twist. We're not just talking mindset. We're showing you how to evolve from an emotional Viking swinging at every move into a calculated gladiator who wins by waiting. No fluff, no indicators, just raw, actionable perspective that could change how you trade forever. If that's the kind of content you're here for, hit subscribe, check the links in the description, and let's step into the arena. Section 1. The Viking Phase. Impulse-based trading. The fire is real, but so is the trap. In the beginning, every trader is a Viking, not by choice, but by instinct. They charge into the markets with raw conviction, hungry for glory, fueled by emotion, by belief, by the thrill of the raid. They sail into unfamiliar waters on ships built from optimism and YouTube videos, gripping an axe made of RSI signals and Twitter calls. The moment they see green on the chart, they don't hesitate. They strike. Every candle looks like gold. Every breakout whispers promises. A news spike? That's not volatility. That's opportunity. No confirmation needed, just full send. They trade not with caution, but with conquest in mind. And for a while, it almost feels noble. They aren't lazy. They aren't stupid. In fact, they're often relentless. Studying, watching, showing up every day like warriors hungry for battle. But they fight with their hearts, not their heads. Loud, proud, visible from miles away. And that's where it all goes wrong. Because the market, the same clean setups they race toward, those are honey traps. The same breakouts they celebrate, carefully staged ambushes. They don't realize it yet, but they're not discovering opportunity. They're providing liquidity. They are the ones who make the trap work. Their excitement is the signal. Their commitment becomes the bait. Their entry becomes someone else's exit. And when the candle turns against them, when the breakout breaks down or the volume vanishes, they don't blame the game. They blame themselves. They think, maybe I'm not cut out for this. But that's not the truth. The truth is, they were never trading. They were raiding. The market doesn't punish them for being wrong. It punishes them for being predictable. And, like the great raiders of history, most of them fall not because they weren't brave, but because they believed courage alone was enough. But somewhere, after the third or fourth blown account, after the emotional burnout, after the last heroic charge ends in silence, the trader begins to see it. They begin to question. They begin to hesitate. And in that hesitation, something shifts. The Viking dies. The strategist is born. Section 2. The Gladiator Evolution. Strategic Trading. The chaos is the same. The mindset is not. There comes a moment when the battle-hardened Viking lays down his axe. Not because he's given up, but because he's finally seen the truth. That screaming into the wind doesn't change its direction. That charging the gate only makes it easier for the archers to aim. That in this market, this coliseum of blood and psychology, brute force is not power. Timing is. And so, the Viking becomes something else. He becomes a gladiator. The arena is no less brutal. The traps are still there. But now, he enters it not with a roar, but with a breath. Calm, focused, calculated. Gone are the days of flinching at every twitch of the chart, of lunging at every candle that flickers green. Now, he walks the sand with the patience of someone who knows. The first strike is rarely the one that ends the fight. He doesn't chase opportunity. He lets it come to him. While others swing wide, desperate to make their mark, the gladiator watches. His eyes scan the arena. The volume, the sentiment, the structure. Every twitch of his opponent becomes a tell. Every cheer from the crowd, a distraction to be ignored. The market throws feints. A sudden spike here, a false break there. But he doesn't react, not yet, because a gladiator's edge is not his blade, it's his ability to wait. He understands that price isn't just movement, it's behavior, that every breakout is a question. Who will flinch first? and he knows that the trader who needs to be right is the easiest to trap. So he holds. He waits for exhaustion, for commitment, for the overreach. And when the time comes, he strikes not with violence, but with precision. One move. Clean. Final. It's a different kind of battle now. One not fought with emotion, but with awareness. One where discipline is armor and unpredictability is the deadliest weapon. And here, in the heart of the arena, the gladiator doesn't just survive, he begins to win. Not because he's faster, not because he's stronger, but because he no longer plays the market's game. He studies it, he adapts to it, he turns its patterns into signals, and its traps into triggers. And while the next Viking storms the gate, blinded by hope and momentum, the gladiator stands still, silent, unreadable, already planning his next move. Section 3. Bluff Detection. Not everything that glitters is gold, especially in the arena. There's a cruel beauty to the market. It knows exactly what you want to see, and it shows it to you just long enough to bait the hook. A clean breakout, a sudden spike in volume, a textbook flag pattern snapping upward like a battle standard in the wind. Everything aligns, everything says go. It's dazzling, it's perfect, it's bait. Because what looks obvious in the arena is often engineered, and what feels exciting is often a performance, not for you, but against you. Gladiators learn this the hard way. They learn that some of the loudest signals are not invitations to enter. They're traps designed to harvest belief. Emotional conviction becomes a weapon, and every confirmation you cling to becomes another opening in your armor. So before stepping forward, before lunging toward that breakout with all the trust in your back-tested edge, you pause. You ask the question every disciplined warrior learns to ask: who benefits if I enter here? Because someone always does. A breakout candle may stretch high above resistance, but look closer. That wick? It's a dagger slicing through stop orders, not resistance. That spike in volume? It's not support. It's the crowd screaming too soon. That clean pattern you've waited for? It's a prop set on stage just long enough for the real players to make their exit. Vikings fall for what's shiny. They see the sword glinting in the sun and run toward it, unaware it's already buried in the sand, blade first. They believe what they see, and they pay for it. But the gladiator knows better. He knows the arena lies. He's seen candles reverse after perfection. He's watched volume peaks, trigger collapses. He's entered trades that looked exactly like the textbook said they should, only to find himself standing on a trapdoor disguised as a breakout. So he stops looking for perfection. He starts looking for motive. He doesn't just ask what the market is doing. He asks why. Why here? Why now? Why this level? And more importantly, who's on the other side? Because once you stop seeing setups as signals and start seeing them as incentives, once you start thinking not just about price, but about behavior, the arena begins to shift. You're no longer reacting to illusion. You're reading through it. And suddenly, you're not the one chasing the bait. You're the one who lets it pass and waits to fade the aftermath. Because in this arena, the best trades often don't happen when things look perfect. They happen after the perfect move fails. And the moment you stop falling for the bluff, you start becoming the one who sets it. Section 4. Predictability Kills. The deadliest pattern is your own. In the early days, repetition feels like discipline. You find a setup that works, a certain time, a familiar shape, a trusted indicator. It hits once, then twice, then a third time. And so, like a blacksmith forging habit into armor, you begin to trust it blindly. Same pattern, same timing, same size. It becomes your ritual. But in the arena, rituals become rhythms, and rhythms become targets. The market doesn't punish inconsistency. It punishes predictability, because once your movements can be charted, so can your destruction. Vikings, of course, had no interest in subtlety. When the war drums beat, they attacked, always forward, always loud, always the same. Every moon cycle, they raided the same ports at the same time in the same fashion. And eventually, the defenders stopped being surprised. They started preparing the shoreline with archers, with fire, with traps. And one by one, the raiders fell, not because they were weak, but because they had become easy to read. In trading, it's no different. Enter the market at 9:30 every morning. The machines already know. Take every 3-candle setup, you're marked. Same risk size every time, same confirmation criteria, same entry reaction. You are not trading. You are being traded against. But the gladiator, he breaks his rhythm before the market can. He varies his movement, not out of fear, but by design. Sometimes he steps into the arena and does nothing. Not because the setup is invalid, but because too many others are watching. Sometimes he delays. Sometimes he sizes down. Sometimes, with full knowledge that a trade aligns, he lets it go, because unreadability is its own kind of edge. He is still disciplined, but his discipline lives in adaptability. His consistency isn't in outcome, but in process. He doesn't worship routine. He weaponizes it, then changes form. Picture it. The market swings its sword where it thinks he will be, but he's already moved. He fakes left, pauses, waits for the overextension, then strikes when no one expects it. Because the moment you become predictable, you become prey. So, he breaks his own pattern, not to disrupt his edge, but to protect it. And over time, he becomes a ghost in the arena. Hard to read, hard to follow, impossible to trap. The Viking charges every time the bell rings. The gladiator decides when the fight begins. Section 5. Timing is everything. It's not about being first. It's about being right when it counts. The Viking sees the gates open and doesn't think. He charges. The first torch is barely lit and already he's running, sword drawn, heart pounding, convinced that speed equals strength, that victory belongs to whoever moves first. And for a moment, it almost works, until the boiling oil pours from the towers, until the archers on the walls unleash their second volley, until he realizes the real battle hadn't started yet. This is how most traders enter the market. The candle pops, the breakout hits, the crowd roars, and you leap in, full of conviction and urgency, because you believe the early bird gets the worm. But in the arena, the early bird often gets slaughtered. You've probably felt it. That sting of being technically right, but still losing. You saw the reversal coming. You called the breakout before it happened. You were ahead of the curve, and still the market flipped on you. And you said it to yourself, I knew it would reverse. I just got in too early. That's not just a near miss. That's a Viking move wearing a gladiator's mask. Because knowing is not enough. In this game, timing is the edge. Gladiators don't swing at the first opening. They wait for the second. They let the chaos unfold. They let the crowd overcommit. They let the noise tire itself out. They watch that first breakout, not with fear of missing out, but with measured detachment. They know that the first move is often a bluff, a rush of emotion, a trap built from early conviction. So they wait. They let the volume surge, and then stall. They let price punch through, and then fade. They let the weak hands jump first, and then get washed out. And only then, in the quiet that follows the violence, they act. Because the second wave, that's not the echo of the first. That's the real move, born after the trap has sprung, after the bait has been consumed, after the dust has settled and the battlefield is clear. It takes strength to move first, but it takes wisdom to move last. Gladiators train for the moment when clarity emerges. They don't trade based on the invitation. They trade based on the reveal. So the next time you feel your fingers twitching at the first sign of momentum, pause, breathe. Let the early fighters test the waters. And remember, the Viking rushes the castle. The gladiator waits at the gates, sword down, watching the smoke rise, and preparing to walk in clean after the flames die out. Section 6. Burn the boat. The most dangerous warrior is the one with nothing to run back to. There's an old tale told in Smoke and Saltwater of Viking captains landing on enemy shores and ordering their own ships set ablaze. The flames rose behind them, bright against the gray sky, licking at the carved wooden dragons that had carried them across oceans. Their men watched in stunned silence as the last path home turned to ash. But this wasn't madness. It was commitment. There would be no retreat, no second guessing, no whisper in the back of their minds saying, "We can always turn around if things go bad." From that moment forward, there were only two outcomes: victory or legend. In trading, the fire doesn't come from ships. It comes from attachment. It's the voice that says, I'll move my stop just this once. The hand that hovers over the sell button before the plan has a chance to breathe. The anxiety that builds because the position size is too big, too meaningful, too emotional. And it's the reason most traders never find consistency, because they never burn the boat. They enter trades with the intention to follow a plan, but they keep one foot out the door. They risk more than they're comfortable with. They leave psychological escape hatches open, just in case it starts to hurt. But the gladiator, he's already accepted the pain. He doesn't fear the outcome, because he already paid the price in advance. Clarity. He sizes down until the trade feels small enough to breathe. He risks what he can lose without flinching. And when he enters, he does it with finality, not because he's reckless, but because he knows the war is won, not in the moment of the trade, but in the moment of commitment. He tapes his risk to the wall. He walks away from the keyboard, and he lets the battle unfold. Without chasing, without adjusting, without begging the market to be kind. This is not passivity. This is emotional detachment forged in discipline. It's walking into the arena with no safety net, not to prove you're invincible, but because you've removed every option that would pull you out of focus. It's knowing that if the trade fails, you don't, because you executed well, you stayed calm, you didn't retreat. So burn the boat, shrink your size until you can breathe again, cut the need to be right, let go of the outcome so you can finally control the process. Because the gladiator doesn't plead for the market to cooperate. He shows up without fear, without noise, and fights with the clarity of a man who knows there is no going back. Section 7. The crowd's trap, shelling points. When everyone agrees on the battlefield, that's where the trap is waiting. There are places on the chart that call to traders like beacons. They shimmer with consensus, round numbers, key moving averages, clean trend lines, swing highs, swing lows. You can almost hear the collective whisper, this is the spot. They're easy to see, easy to draw, easy to trust. And that's the problem, because these aren't safe zones. They're shelling points, named after the game theory concept where people, without coordination, all choose the same place to meet, simply because it feels obvious. And in trading, the obvious is where traders gather. And where traders gather is where they get harvested. Picture it, 100 Viking ships all converging on the same bay. The water is calm, the coastline looks undefended. The warriors disembark in formation, eager to breach the gates, each convinced they're the first to arrive, the clever ones who spotted the easy entry. But high in the cliffs above, archers wait, silent, patient, prepared, because the defenders didn't need to guess where the Vikings would land. They knew, because that inlet, that perfect little cove, that's where everyone would go. In the market, shelling points are no different. You see price approach a round number, and you get ready to enter or protect it. You think, everyone sees this level. That means it'll hold. And you're right, everyone does see it, and that's exactly why it won't hold. Because smart money doesn't play at the level, they play around it. They wait for the retail swarm, the early buyers stacking up long positions just above support, or the breakout chasers queuing up as price taps resistance. And then they strike. The level gives way, stops are triggered, liquidity flushes into the market, and smart money steps in at better prices. After the dust clears, after the herd has been used and discarded. The first touch of an obvious level, that's not opportunity. That's a mass grave for retail entries. Gladiators know this. They mark the shelling point not as a place to act, but as a place to watch others act. They know when a level looks too clean, too symmetrical, too perfect. It's not a signal. It's a setup, not for you, but for the ones waiting to take the other side. So they position 2 steps away. They fade the fake out. They let the crowd reveal their hand, and then they move, clean, after the trap has already snapped shut. Because when thousands of traders converge instinctively, without communication, the market doesn't reward them for their agreement. It exploits them for their predictability. And the gladiator? He doesn't run with the mob. He circles the field, reads the dust, counts the bodies, and steps in only once the screaming has stopped.